I got a lot of problem with you people, and you're all going to hear about it. Sorry. Preemptive trigger warning, I'll probably swear. Sorry. This is the story of LIS grievances, a bot that's been chatting about for a little bit here. Oh, on to the next one. First of all, this is Long Live the Horsey books, The King is Dead, Long Live the New King. What I wanted to do was come up with a cryptic Twitter bot, and it's my art project. And it's called List Grievances, and I bought a domain name for it too. Oh, here's what is, man, this is quick. Here's the stuff that it's made out of. Python library called Tweepy, Google Forms, and then cron. But when you type in cron, you get pictures of corn, so that's what I got. 1, 2, okay, here's how it works. What you do is you DM, so direct message, the List Grievances account. It takes that message using Tweepy and shoves it into a Google Docs spreadsheet. At that point, I check to make sure that it's not salacious or full of swears. Dang. And then I get the software to post it anonymously, so all your information is scrubbed. I had to do some other stuff. I got a VPS set up, and I spent some money on it. I also bought a domain name, and I was talking to someone yesterday, and they said, why'd you even do that? You didn't need to. And I said, yeah, I guess so. So now I'm paying money for something I don't need to. Anyways, the code is available on GitHub if you wanted to look at it, but the very important, interesting thing here for the checking the grievances is this little box highlighted in red. There will be a test later on all these other lines, so you need to know what they say. But essentially, you can post to a Google Doc form. Oh, dang. Okay, next one. Posting grievances. I actually have a text file, and I transfer stuff from the Google bot to the text file, and then that's what this highlighted red box. Why did I use this slide? That's a waste of time. 1, 2. Here's my assurance to you, each and every one in this room. I do not know who's posting anything. Not even myself. Anytime I need to log in to the server, to the account to do any sort of maintenance, I blow out everything using my nuke script. Here's my first example. Thank you. How many catalogers does it take to change a light bulb? Only one, but she first has to check how Library of Congress did it. And Library of Congress is a pretty good sport about it. They actually like this tweet, so I've arrived in the American library world. So I'll see how many of these I can read, but notice the frowny face. Librarians who Twitter shame others for job postings they are not qualified for. Established academic librarians who have no idea how good they have it. Where are all the jobs? I was told there would be jobs. Discovering that your new job has components in it that were never advertised. Okay, here's the funny one. Liaison versus liaison librarian haters. If it's like the opposite, who's actually winning here? The haters or the liaison librarians? Think about that one. The one on the bottom is interesting too. Librarians who whine too much, librarians who whine too much. The over-reliance of beer and alcohol, boo-hoo. Okay, here we go. Here's another one. Our UL went out to dinner with a vendor, and now we have a giant contract with that vendor. 2 days later, headed to the collections who think they know who's doing an anonymous grievance. Boom! Pause for laughter. All right. You got to read these from the bottom up. When academic librarians publish something on open access in toll access journals. When academic librarians refuse to understand that peers, like many other academics, have contained, and that's why they can't do OA. And then at the bottom, that was not a good one anyways. So people who gripe about library decisions / policies about considering the librarians have to go through to make those tough calls. And then next day, retiring baby boomers attempt to leave a legacy by ramming through short-sighted, poorly planned projects on abbreviated timelines. Take that. Our young used to be so bitter to eat now, or so delicious to eat now they are so bitter. That's my personal favorite. Nobody likes my Candy Crush Lib Guide, and the fetishism of the stereotypical librarian aesthetic. So many $5 words in there. Are you the author? I don't know, you might be the author. I'm not the author. Did I write all of these? I might have. Pause for laughter, pause for laughter. Okay, guys, I just want to slow it down right now. And what did I think? What did I want to accomplish when I did this? I wanted to be the zeitgeist of LIS frustrations and fears and joy and love. And I thought, nope, too late. Okay. Here's how it shakes out. I got a good amount of happy ones, a surprisingly, unsurprisingly amount of bad ones. I want more clever, goofy, stupid ones that we don't understand, but I do need a lot more laughy ones, and we all need more laughy ones. So make your own dang bot. The code is up there if you want, or what I would suggest, they all have to be the same length at the time, guys. I'm sorry. Yak at my bot. So send it a DM. I assure you, total anonymity. If there's no swear words or anything bad in it, it will eventually get posted. and you can feel a level of catharsis that going through library school just ratcheted up your stress levels. It'll melt away. Anyways, that's my talk. Thank you.
Tim is Digital Services Librarian at Brock University. And next up we have Jack Unrau, Public Service Librarian at the Vancouver Island Regional Library.
Okay, so from here, do I close it or do I just, there we go. Okay. Then hit start slideshow when I'm ready to start. Hi, everyone. I am J. Jack Unrau. I do not code much, but I spend loads of my time on a public library info desk doing community tech support and talking about digital privacy, which is what I'm here for today. All right, let's see how this timing all works out here. Okay, having been a children's librarian and a radio-based reading advisor, I feel very well equipped to tell you a story about what it means to me to teach people how to deal with our cyberpunk dystopia we all live in now. So, do you remember back in 2013 when a huge list of IDs and passwords were stolen from Adobe, including all the accounts librarians had made people get so they could read Overdrive ebooks? It was terrible explaining to people what happened, and not just because it was all our fault. Adobe was storing passwords in poorly encrypted fashion and transmitting them in clear text. No, wait, plain text. Shoot, which is Vim and which is about encryption? Anyway, the words clear text and plain text got bandied about a huge amount there. We had to figure out what was going on. In the wake of this breach, our library's agitated techie public services librarians, like myself and Emily up there, got a notification posted, warned people to change their passwords. Then we fell down the rabbit hole of translating what clear text means to plain spoken people. Because it's kind of counterintuitive. We usually want people who aren't making some artistic statement to be clear communicators. We want to get to the point in 300 seconds. We want to tell our stories so we're understood. But when we are teaching the encryption and security, we're promoting values of obfuscation and complication. And no matter how much we say, you don't do this because you have something to hide, this isn't just for pornographers, it's still weird for regular people. So, some smart public-oriented folk have been working on this education project, teaching people what it means to encrypt for your security. Alison Macrina's founding work on the Library Freedom Project is hugely important and useful. They're showing us a path to teach these skills to our users in the public. But what are we doing with these resources? I teach monthly classes on electronic privacy. In these sessions, we talk about governments and corporations and other thieves, what they want with people's data, things they will do to get it, what people can do to try and protect themselves. And so, yeah, I explain digital rights management to our senior citizens. For Freedom to Read Week, a teen and his mom and I built a Tor router from a Raspberry Pi. So I'm doing my part to inch people along the path to looking after their security, to know why transmitting in clear text is so bad. This is not a we done good story, though. This is a story set in 2016, after all. This is ending in an apocalyptic trash fire. Just let that sit with you for a moment. Yeah, no, this is my pause. The world we inhabit is one where you can have all sorts of digital freedom if you know how to code. Navigate pirated media repositories, blocklist the cesspools of Twitter, run a VPN around Netflix or a repressive regime. This world is made for people like me and made for you, and it's made for us to feel good about helping to fix our users. I love my secret arcane knowledge, and I love sharing that secret arcane knowledge to help technophobes understand what I love about these tools. But that kind of thing makes the story about people like us. Our goals can't be to make the public more like us. Doing this education stuff feels like we're sharing tips from the lucky times that we got out there and weren't squashed by the giants who are out ravaging the countryside. Teaching special tech tricks to fix our special users, the ones who ask for the knowledge, who come to the classes, that isn't enough. That lets things get worse and worse for those who have more important things to do than taking a class on Facebook privacy settings, like Facebook chatting with their kid who's 3 time zones away. I'm an info desk librarian. I love helping people directly. Communicating clearly about this stuff to a few people at a time feels good, but isn't efficient. The most important thing I've done for our users is harass IT into installing Privacy Badger on our public computers. Users need tools for default experiences that are better for them than what fresh surveillance machines from Best Buy can do. Maybe with Caliber and library boxes and VPNs and ad blockers for everyone, we could make libraries have people's backs even if they have no tech skills. I get that there are economic concerns and political concerns in libraries and in society that have grim answers for why don't we just kind of questions. They are the giants trampling the countryside, the sixth and seventh sons, all that apocalyptic stuff we cannot affect while we scurry. Roy Scranton wrote this essay last year about how we can't look to technology or politics to save us from climate change and the end of Western civilization. We have to learn how to remember and let go. For me, sharing stories is the remembering value we're adding. I guess I'm just saying teaching digital privacy classes gives us and our users practice at sharing the ransomware folktales we'll someday tell, huddled round our trash can fires, which wasn't what I expected, but I think it still has value. Thank you very much.
Next up, we have Naomi Eichenlaub from Ryerson University Library and Archives.
Today I'm going to talk about making MARC actionable, and specifically the use of URIs, or Uniform Resource Identifiers, in Subfield 0 of bibliographic MARC records. Over the next 5 minutes, we will look at the what, why, how, and who of this topic. So while working in MARC is not where we want to be even yesterday, we need tools and a roadmap to move forward, which is why I'm excited about things that we can do today to hurry up and get to our tomorrow in terms of our library bibliographic data. So the first question to answer is, what do we mean by making MARC actionable? We mean that instead of filling our bibliographic records with strings of data that don't do anything, such as a name or subject heading string of text, like the first line of this slide, we want to complement these string headings with actionable data, a URI that links out to a web-based authority record, making it actionable to both computers and people. All right. Here's another example. ORCID IDs, the persistent digital identifiers that distinguish researchers, are another way we can use URIs in place of strings of information, in this case names, with something actionable. So URIs in MARC records have the potential to support the transformation of data into BibFrame and create a world with richer relationships between things, because computers can interpret URIs and not things. Not strings, sorry. We need to transition from string-based headings to URI-based authorities. Another great reason for pointing to URIs rather than strings of data is to reduce maintenance. You change the data once at the source of the identifier rather than in every record. So, work to date has focused on using subfield 0 in MARC for RDF object URIs. There is ongoing work on distinguishing the complexities of identifiers for real-world objects versus documents about real-world objects. But until this distinction can be realized, the URIs in subfield 0 in MARC ambiguously refer to both. So there are definitely challenges yet to be resolved around the implementation of URIs in MARC. MARCEdit has some functionality to help link our bibliographic data in subfield 0. So the link identifiers tool loops through a set of MARC records and resolves access points in the 100, 600, and 700 data elements to their linked data endpoints. Now let's take a look at a few folks who've been involved in this work, including Terry Reese from MARCEdit, Jackie Shea from George Washington University Library, and the Task Force on URIs in MARC. We also did a small experiment at Ryerson. So as of July 2016, George Washington University Library has added over 4 million URIs and about 1 million print and electronic catalog records. And the goal for their metadata team has been prepping this raw data so that it can be manipulated by available web APIs. This is a public view of a URI-enriched record, so the URIs don't display. Shea and Reese have published a paper in which they write that libraries should work together to integrate RDF linking concepts into existing legacy MARC data. And they write that what makes this project unique is that the work being done is within the existing MARC framework, rather than as part of a larger experimentation around the BibFrame model. And they encourage us to flood our current MARC data with subfield 0. So those are the identifiers in the MARC record. At Ryerson, we identified a very small record subset that we could use to pilot the MARC edit link identifiers that adds URIs into the relevant fields of a batch of records. So we had a very small file of 100 Berg fashion library records that needed to be replaced in our catalog due to a platform upgrade. So we added URIs using MARC edit, and this actually took a few minutes even for this really small file of 100 titles. And we loaded it back up, but you probably can't see at the bottom of this record, you could see the URIs. So because the URIs were displaying publicly, we had to tweak our webpub file. And this is my colleague Trina and I making that small change on the live server. We just had to add a 0 so that those URIs didn't display anymore. The Library of Congress Program for Cooperative Cataloging appointed a task group on URIs in MARC that published a first report in October 2015, and a second one in April 2016, and I think a third one is due this month. They've stated that while further work can be done to make problematical areas of MARC more hospitable to URIs, the task group believes that return on investment should be taken into account, and that beyond a certain point, MARC development will reach a point of diminishing returns. So in conclusion, I would put forward that any work towards implementing URIs in MARC and making our current bibliographic data actionable is a good step towards linked data that we can start today. The end.
Next up, we have Trina Grover, who we just had a sneak peek at.
On my messy desk, yeah.
Also from Ryerson.
Yeah.
I've just lost the mouse for you. What's the other screen? Where's the other screen? Oh, there it is.
Thanks.
There you go.
Yes, yeah, thanks. Oh, yeah, take yours. Okay, here we go. I'm way better at knitting than I am at technology. I'm Trina. I'm a cataloger at Ryerson, and together with some of my crafty colleagues, we are leading a knitting group in the Digital Media Experience Lab at Ryerson. We call it Knit Happens, and it's turned out to be a really fun way to introduce some new forms of making into our very techie makerspace. We are crowdsourcing projects, so everyone's knitting a crocheted square, and we're building a mural together. We're getting lots of student press. The student wellness group has us on our Facebook page. So it's going really great. And although most people who are sort of interested in knitting aren't sure they want to do something that their grandma did, I find that when I talk about how knitting is a lot like programming or coding, their eyes light up. So knitting has its own kind of special notation, and it's also a basically binary method of manipulating yarn. Knit and purl, 2 stitches to create a whole bunch of different things. So designing a knit project is a lot like coding as well, in that you have to compile some code in your brain. You have to calculate how many stitches you're going to need to get a certain length and a certain width of garment or fabric. There are so many beautiful crafty ideas out there. Once I got started, this is a photograph of a lily pad with embroidery, and it just got me going once I started doing the research and looking at some of the beautiful soft things that you can create with knitting. This is Chris Howard. She's a programmer and a knitter. Her Ignite Talk, Granny Was a Hacker, inspired me to propose this one. I recommend that you watch it. It's really awesome. She created a pair of QR code knits, and the QR code actually scans and takes you to her website where you can find the pattern. So these mittens are actually self-replicating. Crafty people like to share their code and their inspirations on Ravelry, which some people describe as the GitHub for knitters. That might be stretching it a bit, but it's a free social networking site that you can go to and get free patterns or sell your patterns. So one of the awesome things that recently happened is we inherited a knitting machine, a manual machine from the fashion department. It's got 110 needles. It doesn't have any electrical components. It's completely a manual machine, so we want to know how to hack it, but I'm not sure that's going to work. Darn. Oh, it's playing. So what's super cool about this is this machine uses punch cards to mechanically adjust the needles to create patterns. Unfortunately, the video didn't show you the punch card kind of through the machine. So it's essentially an analog computer, and it's so much fun. We're just loving it. It creates large pieces in no time. Nothing would be happening in the DME without the students there. So here are pictured a couple of students with Namir, who you met yesterday, a very patient mentor who really gets a lot going and gets the students motivated. These are another couple of students who we're working with. They forced me to learn Tinkercad. They're not going to do the designing and the printing. They want to help us learn how to do it. So we actually used Tinkercad to design some handles for a bag, this bag. So we've created the handles on a digital printer. We've created the bag, the fabric portion on a knitting machine. We're going to add some LED lights. It's a pretty simple electronics project, but we're really proud of this because we're putting it all together and we're making it work. We have a few projects in progress. One is a textile wall for the DME lab. Sally at Ryerson had the idea, let's make it a pixelated design. Awesome. So we're looking at how to create pixelated design with fabric. And we're looking at various beautiful potential images that we can find online. And I was thinking maybe a water theme would be great. And if so, can we light this textile up, this water-themed textile up with some data, with some lights? And I'd really like to use the data from this site, which tracks water temperature and waves from the Great Lakes. So if we can get the LED lights to respond to the data changes, because the waves and the temperature in the Great Lakes changes periodically, that would be so cool. And we'd have something to engage students in our project, in our textiles. I encourage you to pick up a new tool. If you haven't done something with your hands lately, it's really good for the brain, and you never know what inspiration might come from it. Thanks.
That's not the certainty of it.
A little bit more Ryerson for you now. We have Gillian Byrne, Associate Chief Librarian.
So does Ryerson get a prize for bravery because we have the most people doing this? The iPad will do. And go. Okay. So, 1 second. Cody Hansen's Library is Software blog post argues that the library is now software, that our products and services can no longer live outside software, and that we need to understand the importance of software and embed it in everything in the values and the services that we provide. If we accept Cody's premise, it seems clear to me that the traditionally organized library isn't well suited to achieving this vision. What does a library that fulfills all its major functions through its software look like? A couple of caveats. There will be gaps in my thinking. This whole 5 minutes might be a dog's breakfast of half-formed thoughts. If I don't name check your specific area of work, it's probably because I don't know the answer, not because I don't think it's important. So here's how it's going to work. I'm going to talk about the skills we need and then talk about how I think they might be organized more effectively. So first, well, we need more IT infrastructure. software developers, obviously, but also system architects, QA people, documentation specialists, accessibility experts, support. In this model, our library IT becomes product developers and support. Next, I want to talk about catalogers, because I love you guys. Metadata, Mashcat data wranglers. If our goal is to meet the expectations of exploring our collections through software, it needs to start with metadata. All of the metadata and all of the metadata working together. A plethora of full text environment increases the need for ontologies, for crosswalks, in order to make it all work together effectively. So catalogers become metadata infrastructure specialists. Next, well, this could be a presentation all on its own, but I'm going to argue that we've reached kind of a post-scarcity of information right now, and that surfacing that information, not selecting it, is what should be at the core of the work we do. Having, along with the metadata, having full control of our search algorithms in the hands of our subject experts will allow us to serve user needs better. This is where I get a little crazy. Subject liaisons became search algorithm support. And now I'm going to go really down far the rabbit hole and start talking about artificial intelligence. We know our interventions on the side don't work. We need smarter systems if we're going to build our outreach into them, build our instruction, everything like that. But what I think is that artificial intelligence requires programming, absolutely, but also subject and discipline expertise. Library workers with deep knowledge will be needed to build and maintain this properly. So public services people, you're going to become artificial intelligence experts, just throwing that out there. UX. Well, we need UX in all the places. I didn't put it in the tech side because I think UX is larger and broader than just technology. Usability is very important, but to get the context a library would need to shift into this world, we'd need much more than that. We would need anthropological studies, market studies, everything else in order to drive our technology development. So the rest of you are going to become UX people, most of you. Finally, other than a metric ton of funding, to actually make this work, we would need content control. So I think I'd put a lot more emphasis on negotiation and negotiators as a priority skill. I don't think we've pushed the boundaries here with publishers in terms of getting content and not containers, partly because what would we do with all this content and without infrastructure? But we need to move those goalposts, possibly towards ownership, but likely to unfettered access in order to actually make this work. So acquisitions people become sort of those content negotiators. Now I'm going to start building this really special world. Administrative support, I think, is at the bottom of this. It provides system-wide support and data to develop directions, but it's focused on efficiency. And I don't think that it should be that areas that are focused on effectiveness should report to the administration that is focused on efficiency. Just going to leave that sentence lie there. I struggled where to put negotiation and UX, but decided that they weren't necessarily product dependent as other positions, so that they would remain system-wide at the bottom, but possibly go into product teams. So instead of libraries based on function, we moved to departments based on tool. Software is now our mission. Focus on teams that support those software tools, and that's how I organize people. So dotted line reporting, i.e. committees, would ensure specialists retain contact with each other. This basically flips the current model of having departments as functional specialists, and our technology is usually run by committees. Finally, I'd separate out long-term development strategy and short-term results operation. I like the idea of supporting research and development within a library as a distinct unit, but one that rotates its membership, kind of like an academic fellowship model. So that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Whirlwind of ideas all thrown in rapid succession. I won't call this a halftime, but in introducing our next speaker, Wiktor Rzeczkowski, I will read the bio that he sent. I asked everybody to send a revision of the bio. Victor's the only one that did, so gives us a second to gather our thoughts. Wiktor Rzeczkowski, PhD, is the Senior Systems Administrator at McMaster University Library. He conducts research, develops methodologies, systems, and applications across a wide spectrum of computer and information technologies, ranging from data center hardware to online user services, and has in-depth hands-on experience in these areas.
how to find it, please.
Just close it here.
Okay. Sorry? Here?
Just to the right.
Okay. So I'm going to talk about easing the collaboration curves for access. Let's start. This is not the first slide, this is just the title. How to start? Okay. So, a universal desire is to generate more values, tangible and intangible, better and faster. And for this, collaboration can be quite a powerful leverage. It looks so powerful that The Economist has recently written that in modern business, collaboration is next to godliness. Collectively, more can be achieved than individually, and things can be achieved more efficiently. In reality, especially in the knowledge work, some factors can negatively affect collaboration so that less is achieved than expected, or things are achieved less efficiently. In reality, is this. One factor is serendipity. Serendipitous encounters can increase the chances that valuable insights are sparked and more is achieved. Facebook boosted serendipity like no one else by putting its employees in the largest open office workspace in the world. No rooms, no walls, no cubicles, nothing. So surely in such an office, a lot of serendipitous encounters and sparks will occur, but so too will a lot of serendipitous interruptions. So studies show that interruptions are costly, so eventually not more, but less can be achieved. For creative work called deep work, uninterrupted concentration is a must, and there is plenty of deep work in the internet access field. Besides deep work, knowledge workers do shallow work. Mundane logistical style tasks like email meetings, tinkering with social media. And as reported, they do too much of it. Shallow work is easy, makes workers feel productive, and it is rich in personal interaction, so they enjoy it. It is also easily measured and therefore rewarding. There could be too much interest in doing shallow work, however. Very few employees are engaged in many collaborations, and very many are engaged in very few collaborations. The room for improvement of the collaborations rate is considerable. Reports show that deep workers tend to get involved in collaborations less frequently than shallow workers. Their work is more difficult to get measured and rewarded. Some collaborators are so enthusiastic collaborators that they are asked to have a say on every issue, and nothing happens until they have had a say. An organization may be significantly affected when the bottleneck collaborator weighs in on subjects outside of her or his competence, and there can be lots of such subjects. When it comes to value of collaboration teams, a simple arithmetic or logic does not work. For example, since bigger teams tend to have bigger collaboration overhead, a team of 5 may be actually equivalent to a team of 4. New technologies such as content management systems open new areas for collaboration. A new methodology is needed to empower non-systems admins, such as librarians, to install and fully control their applications. Such a technology new technology is already used at McMaster library. It involves production VM, a development copy of the production VM, and a collaboration cloud. The cloud arrangement helps the parties to engage in deep work more. In the cloud, there is a project repository system, a project management system, and production test VM. In the process of updating the production application, the update is verified on the test VM and documented both in the project management system and in the project repository. In summary, since evidence of collaboration course is growing, in this talk, ideas have been considered to help understand the course and to deal with it more effectively. The internet links here point to image sources and to related work. For questions, etc., I can be reached at McMaster at the address internet access given. Thank you very much.
Onward, we have Sam Popowich, Discovery Services Librarian at the University of Alberta.
Boy, I never know how to play these things.
It takes a second for the most. Oh, no, you're good. Sorry, just hit the viewer. Very last
Let's go. Oh, okay. Windows, huh? Okay. So I want to talk about functional programming and closure today. Functional programming is one of three main ways of writing programs, the other two being imperative and object-oriented. I do a lot of object-oriented work, but I've been getting into functional programming a lot more lately. So in functional programming, everything is a function. And we'll talk about what that is in a sec. A function is any piece of code that returns a value. Not all pieces of code return values. And I'll show an example of that in just a sec. Or 50, it shouldn't be 15 seconds. Everything's a function. What's a function? Function is a piece of code. I'm not good at dancing. This is the longest 15 seconds ever. It's broke. Windows. So for example, anyone who's done any programming will have seen something like this. This is Ruby code. Puts hello world, prints hello world to the screen. If you were to type it into Ruby, you'd get nil at the bottom, which means it doesn't return a value. It's not a function. It does something else. Square root 25, on the other hand, a piece of code that returns the square root of 25, returns 5.0 if you were to type it in. That is a function. It does return a value. All of functional programming is built on chaining together these functions. Everything has to return a value, even if it's something that prints to the screen. So here's an example of some code. AccessConference.upcase will return the value accessConference. AccessConference.reverse will return an unpronounceable value. You can chain them together, which then passes the returned value from each piece of code to the one before. And in that way, you're able to build up really large, sophisticated programs simply through this very simple, straightforward method of passing a value around. In functional programming, there's a lot of parentheses that scare people off. So you can see an example here, reverse uppercase AccessConference, you've got two sets of parameters. But in reality, if you've ever worked in another language like C, for example, it's basically the same number of parentheses. You just put them in a different place. So on the bottom line there, you can see square root 25 in a functional language versus square root 25 in something like Ruby. You're just putting the parameters, the parentheses in a different place. And this helps divide function call from value. But it can get really confusing when you're looking at a huge block of code with a bunch of parameters. So when I looked at this on my laptop, that first line was in one line, all the parameters are munged together. So you can use whitespace when it's not syntactically significant to make things easier to read. However, not everything is a value. Sometimes you do have to have side effects. You want to print to a screen, access a database, consume an API, send an email. Those operations don't return values. They have side effects. You're always going to have them. What functional programming does is it separates out anything that deals with a value from anything that's a side effect. So you don't ever have a side effect that happens by accident, which makes your code really easy to test and really easy to think about. You're not supposed to understand what this does. This just gives you an example of what functional code looks like in the wild. This is a working closure program that will find all the anagrams for a given string. Everybody can stretch for 15 seconds. I really want a dog. I'm not ready for a dog. One day I will have a dog. Perfect. Let's talk about closure. So you'll probably have heard of Lisp. Lisp is, David, is it the second oldest programming language? Third? Second? Okay. Lisp is sort of the granddaddy of all of the functional languages. Closure is a new form of Lisp. It's a kind of Lisp. It's a flavor of Lisp. It was developed in 2007 by Rich Hickey. It runs on the Java virtual machine, which means you have all of the Java infrastructure underneath it available to you as closure code. It's Lispy. You put the parentheses on the outside. You put the arithmetic operators at the beginning. That's always weird for people who are coming from other programming languages. But once you get around some of those syntactic things, it's really nice to work with. One of the cool things about Clojure and other functional programming languages is data structures are immutable. They don't change. Once you've set up a piece of data, it stays the same no matter what you do to it. Which means working with data is very easy to think ahead about and to understand what something's doing. Things don't change behind the scenes, or they don't change on you if two pieces of code need to modify a piece of data. They can't. So I think it has a large effect on how we work with code in libraries. One of the neat things about functional programming is your code and your data are in exactly the same format, which is not a case that we're used to. And I think Clojure being a modern language is probably something that would be useful in some areas, but I haven't worked out where yet. ClojureScript is like JavaScript for Clojure. ClojureScript compiles down to Clojure compiles down to Java. ClojureScript compiles down to JavaScript. So you have all of JavaScript under the hood. This means that you can work with native JavaScript libraries like, for example, React.js for front-end work. It gives you all the benefits of functional programming, but working in a JavaScript environment. And that's it.
Next up is Andrew Nagy from EBSCO. Just a second for the...
I'm Andrew Nagy. I'm a director of SaaS innovation from EBSCO, previously with Cyril Solutions, and before that with Viewfind at Villanova. They said use the first slide as a throwaway. So I'm here to talk about something very exciting to me, and it is not them, and it is not software as a service, but it is platform as a service. I think platforms are a really exciting way to do really rapid software development. It's going to make things a lot easier, and even more so, an open source platform. So we all can kind of control our destiny, and we heard yesterday that open source is cool and collaboration is awesome. Whoever said that yesterday. So I'm here to kind of plug open source as a future alternative. Because of this, who's familiar with this? This is the consolidation in our industry. It's down to just a few companies now. And it seems like this might be a good thing, but it's actually eliminating competition. And we're setting to solve that problem. We think it's a major problem for our industry. If we can create an open market where it's really easy to play, hence a platform where we can all work together and rapidly build new tools and technologies. We have new opportunity that can make our future great again. This is a book, talks about the value of the platform, and really the core component of a platform are the partners, the ecosystem, the collaboration behind the platform. So it's really important. Okay, so for those of you who are not familiar with platforms or platform as a service, think of it as a core underlying infrastructure that we can build things together and things can interoperate with one another. Things on top of it can talk one another. I cheated, I repeated a few slides, but you're allowed to do that in Ignite format. But what I want to talk about is what I'm now coining LPAS, in case that ever becomes a thing. You can coin me for inventing it, Library Platform as a Service. Because I think that's really exciting by getting us all interconnected. So you're familiar with this crazy dashboard of services. This is the Amazon platform. It's really information or infrastructure as a service, but they provide all of these different microservices or microservices architecture as a platform. You've probably also maybe seen this once before. This is Force.com, the platform that underlies Salesforce. They have an app exchange. You can build little tiny apps in no time at all and add value to the overall product. Another great platform that some of you might be playing with nowadays is Internet of Things. I just recently got a setup in my house by being able to connect my house all together through this platform. So this is my setup at home. I bought the Samsung SmartThings platform, the hub, but what I also did is I bought cameras from D-Link, and I have my Harmony controller, and I have my Amazon Echo, all from different companies, but they all speak a common language and came together on a single platform. That's really the vision. That's what Folio is all about. Folio is an open source platform initiative. This one repeats a couple times so I can slow down. It's made up of three main components to create that platform. It's a system layer, which is our data, where all of our data lives. That can be unstructured and structured data. Okapi, which is the API layer on top of it, making it really easy to interoperate with. And then the UI toolkit. The value here is in the apps. So you all can go and create your own apps and plug it into the infrastructure. You can pick and choose apps from different organizations, different vendors, different libraries, and create your own destiny through your platform. So this is the real value of a platform. It's microservices architecture, it's speed to market. So when is this all going to happen? This is a very new thing. This is not something that is ready to go today. So in 2015, we started the development of this through Index Data. Hopefully you guys have heard of them. And then just recently, the code that has been worked on to date was made publicly available along with our Jira instance. So you can download the code, play with it, install it, work on it, and interoperate with our Jira instance as well to create new support tickets. And then in 2018, we hope to have the semblance of an ILS system working on top of this platform. But we can't all do it alone. This is a very aggressive timeline because we want choice as soon as possible. So we ask that you all come together and help us, join and participate and be a part of that community and take some ownership and some control as to where this thing is going. So join the community, participate. We have a Slack forum that's open. We have a Discuss channel that's open. Our Jira instance is open, as I said. And please sign up and join us. Holy crap, that was fast. Thank you. And
our final speaker will be Laura Wrubel from George Washington University, where she is software development librarian.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's see. All right. Great. So you're going to see some photos of the beautiful nearby Bay of Fundy that I gathered while I was putting together this presentation. Turns out there's some similarities between getting out into nature and piloting the kind of service that I'll be telling you about.
I'm in the scholarly technology group, which is perched on the 6th floor of my library. And we're a group of software developers, web developers. We do some project management and support library applications. And over the past few years, a number of grad students and faculty have found their way to us just sort of by word of mouth, trying to accomplish something that they thought might involve code, and they needed a little bit of help or guidance trying to get to what they wanted to do. So it's like, say you want to kayak on the Bay of Fundy, and you've never kayaked before, and it seems sort of daunting. You don't want to go and take a kayaking workshop in the pool and get some worksheets and a book about it. You want to actually get out there on the water and do what you want to do. So likewise, we, through these interactions, we're helping people, kind of showing them the ropes and kind of getting them to what they really wanted to accomplish in their research or in their project, in their course there. It had become clear to us that really there was a gap on campus for this kind of service or this kind of support, particularly for students in the humanities and social sciences and the faculty in those departments as well. And we thought perhaps the library could step in and fill that role. So in January, we launched a pilot service to provide 30-minute consultations for students and faculty who wanted to make an appointment with us using the same research consultation calendar that we use for other appointments. These are the kinds of activities that we thought we could help with. I'm very fortunate to be on a team that has a wide range of expertise, so we kind of put out there some thoughts about where we'd be willing to offer some guidance. We did say a number of things were going to be out of scope. We didn't really think we could fill the role of a tutor for a class or help with actually writing entire programs for people, so we put that up. We did have some anxiety when we started this service. We wondered, would we know what people, would we have enough knowledge to answer people's questions? Would this overwhelm us? Would these interactions take us away from our regular duties? But in the end, we found that it was actually quite manageable. In the first semester, we averaged about 1 appointment a week. If we didn't know the topic very well, we would find a colleague who did and bring them in. We had an opportunity to show that code doesn't always work the first time you try it out, and there are ways to go and look it up and figure out how to answer that question. These are some sample topics that we had during the first semester. They ended up involving Python and JavaScript, which fortunately played to the strengths of our team. But we did have quite a few questions also that were out of scope. We did get a lot of questions about particular homework assignments. And so it became clear to us that there's still another existing gap on campus, and perhaps there's another opportunity there to help students in those departments. We were also fortunate that we have several other consultation services available in the library, so we could help route people to the best person for their question. We had a lot of statistics questions actually came in, and we have a grad student who knows a lot about R and those, some of those packages to help those students. Next steps, this is no longer a pilot service. This is a core service at our library. We're continuing to offer it this fall as well. And also looking at the topics that we heard from students, we came up with some more workshops, and we're going to try these out as well to have some more chance to reach some more students as well on topics that we are hearing are important to them. This service also, for us, helped satisfy a secret goal that we had, which was to get off of the 6th floor and have some more direct contact with the students and faculty in our community. Because no matter where you work in your library, whatever office, wherever you are, you have expertise that's valuable to the students and faculty or the rest of your community. You can directly help them. They'll be better for it, and you'll be better for it as well. So I have to end by acknowledging the team behind this project, Justin Lippman in particular, who conceived and really got this going. And we've really been happy to go through this experience. So I'd be happy to talk with anybody later, too, if you're thinking about doing something like this or have experience at your own library as well. Thank you.
I think there might be time for some questions, so I'll go and grab the microphone. If you have any questions of any of the participants, maybe they'll come up and to the podium and answer.
It's a comment. Sam, you should definitely get a dog if you want one.
Words to the wise.
I just wanted to mention that OCLC put fast identifiers in MARC records and WorldCats, so those identifiers are, although they're not the actionable URLs, MarcEdit will take those and create actionable URLs from those identifiers. So those are already in there and can be used.
Actually, I have a question for you. Can you search WorldCat based on those identifiers?
I don't know if the identifiers are indexed. I'd have to check. But you can certainly search on a fast thing and then look, find the identifier.
One last chance for comments or questions.
Just for Sam, for the functions, there's a kind of the tough thing about a function calling itself. There's a word for it, but are you able to do that in that kind of the program that you're talking about, or recursion? Yeah, recursive functioning.
So you can do recursion, but you can also write functional programs without using recursion. So one of the nice things is that where in object-oriented to do a recursive algorithm, you might be limited to recursion. My understanding is that in functional, there are a couple of ways that you can do it. I don't know the nitty-gritty underlying thing, but there's tail call recursion and tail call recursion elimination, which happens, I think, within the JVM. So I think what happens is that you can write recursive algorithms in Clojure, and there's some kind of optimization that goes on, which means that you never actually run out of all your memory, basically, is my understanding. Anyone else want to jump in on that one? Okay.
We have one more round of applause for the participants putting themselves out there for this.